G'day guys, my name's 3Jad21 and welcome back to another Rogue Company video. Um, so, a while ago I did a video talking about Rogue Company balancing changes that I wanted to see in the game. And a fair amount of stuff has happened since that video. Some balance changes have been made, some specific to rogues, and some just like in general when it comes to the perks and how they operate. And so I wanted to do an updated video talking about balance changes that I have either changed my opinion on or just to add characters that I didn't talk about before because they have since actually gotten worse. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight into it, starting off with Anvil. And you might notice there's a little something different from the last time I did this. Gunsmith now has a little addendum next to its original perk description. So, Rare Gunsmith now requires at least a 5-round magazine or larger in order for the extra ammo and sight and fall-off ranges to actually be applied to the gun. So, an example of how this affects a character is Phantom. So, Phantom has Rare Gunsmith, but her LR-15 starts off with 4 rounds, which means that when you buy Gunsmith and an LR-15 to start off, you won't actually get anything from Gunsmith because there's not enough ammo to actually get the Gunsmith perk to apply. You actually need to upgrade your sniper by 1 rarity so that it gets its 6th bullet, which means Gunsmith then starts applying, which in the case of sniper rifles just means extra ammo because snipers already have infinite fall-off ranges. So yeah, that's like the surface change of Gunsmith. But the other change they applied to Gunsmith was that the amount of bullets that Gunsmith provides you with is now rounded down. Now, in the case of like assault rifles and SMGs, this doesn't affect it very much. It's still like 48, 52, 56 are the ammo increases per rarity. But for stuff like the Arbitrator and Tier, for example, the Gunsmith perk would always give those guns, like, statistically speaking, like 2-point-something bullets, and they would always round up because they wanted Gunsmith to actually do something no matter what rarity you use and no matter what gun you have. But they have since changed their mind because, 3-shot Arbitrator and 3-shot Tier was pretty ridiculous, especially on certain characters like Anvil and Lancer. So they decided to make it across the board, it rounds down no matter how close it is to a full number. So the Tier and Arbitrator will always be stuck at 2 bullets. So because of that change, I'm perfectly fine with Anvil retaining Gunsmith now, because that was my main concern. The fact that Anvil could have a 3-shot Arbitrator when he is the tankiest character in the game. So I'm all good with that now. Anvil can keep Gunsmith. What I would change is I would ditch Replenish again. Like this is the change that I suggested back in the original video. I still haven't changed my opinion on this. What I would do is I would replace Replenish with Quick Hands, which is Berserker plus Rare Nimble Hands. And then the spot left behind by Berserker, I would put Shredder rounds, Rare Shredder rounds in there. And the effect that that achieves is that instead of having infinite ammo as long as you are downing or eliminating people, you have extra ammo to reload from, and because of Quick Hands, you can reload from it extremely quickly and efficiently because you're able to sprint and your reload time is reduced by 30%. So for a gun like the MLX Moore, that is huge because the MLX Moore, the LMG that Anvil is holding in this picture, is a 4-second reload time. With Epic Nimble Hands, that becomes about 2.6 seconds. I could be wrong. I'm just doing the maths off the top of my head. So that kind of reload difference is actually huge. Like, you can reload your LMG, which, by the way, has 108 bullets if you buy Gunsmith. Or maybe it's 107 now. I don't know. Maybe they... I haven't, like, fully tested out all the differences with ammo with Gunsmith, but point is, you'll have a higher ammo capacity LMG with Shredder rounds, which gives you more ammo to reload from, and you have Quick Hands. So I think not only does that suit Anvil better than Replenish, in my personal opinion, but it's still good. Like it's essentially the same effect as Replenish, just that you don't have theoretically infinite ammo. You just have a crap ton of ammo. And both Gunsmith and Shredder rounds bolster your ammo, so I think that's a suitable thing to give Anvil. And then once again, with Anvil and Cannon, I would swap their revive perks. I've said this before, but yeah, I would swap the revive perks because I think it makes more sense for Anvil to be able to purchase a cheaper revive perk, which means he can buy it earlier, because he only really wants you to get back up out of necessity. He doesn't really care about people, whereas a Cannon, he does care about people. He's a loving guy. I think it makes more sense for a Cannon to have Lifeline. That positive energy to get you energized and start regenerating your health. That's my logic for it anyway. There's also the logic of Anvil should have Lifeline because he's so experienced in combat that when he revives people, they probably will get their health regen straight away. And then there's also the people that argue that, like, I would prefer if Anvil had Lifeline because Lifeline is more useful than Helping Hand, which I can't disagree with. But I don't know. I just think in terms of their personality, that makes more sense. And then, yep, that's the only change I'd make to Cannon. Like getting Lifeline instead of Helping Hand. Chaac. Now, there is actually a change that I'd like to talk about Chaac. In my last video, I said that I didn't want to touch Chaac because of the fact that his what do you call it, playstyle was influenced heavily by his covert ops changes, and that if that's what the developers want to do, then that's how it is, and there's no way that we can really, like, convince the developers to change that. But there is a buff, a very, very slight buff that I think he deserves in terms of his ultimate, because at this point in time, Chaac cannot self-res very easily at the moment. It didn't help that he lost Epic Helping Hand, which means he can't revive himself in 3 seconds now. But an interesting fact about his ultimate is that back when he used to have Epic Helping Hand, they actually nerfed his ultimate by lowering his dodge roll speed while he was crouched. Well, not while crouched, while downed. Because one of his perks is that he can dodge roll while downed, as you can see at the grip passive. So, they basically made it so that his roll speed while he was downed is slower than his roll speed otherwise. And, you know, with Epic Helping Hand, I can kind of see that. That makes sense. If you can res yourself in 3 seconds, it makes sense that you won't be able to get away from a fight as easily. However, they've now removed Epic Helping Hand from Chaac, and he still has the slow dodge roll. So I think if they bring back his original dodge roll, or at least make it the same as a normal dodge roll, I'm not actually sure how his downed dodge roll compared to a normal dodge roll, because it's been that long since it was changed. But if they give him back the downed dodge roll speed that he used to have, now that he no longer has Helping Hand, I think that would make Chaac's self-res feel a lot more useful. Because, like, 90% of the time when a Chaac self-reses, people just stand over them until they get back up and then they get an extra down, you know what I mean? So, I feel like Chaac needs to have a good way of rolling away from the enemy. Just in case they, like, take your eye off Chaac. Like, you look at him at 1 second, you turn away, and then you look back, you're like, oh crap, he's gone. Because he was actually able to dodge roll away in time. But you can't do that at the moment. So I feel like if they want his ultimate to feel useful, that they should give him back his original dodge roll speed while downed. That's all I'd change with Chaac. Otherwise, I think Chaac is actually a very good rogue. Dahlia. Now, I have changed my opinion on Dahlia. What I said in my original video was that I think Dahlia should be a 3 speed, 3 toughness regardless of who she links with. I've since changed my mind and decided that Dahlia should... Actually, I should probably bring up the fact that her passive now says, inherit your linked ally's passive speed and toughness for the duration of the round. Now that's misleading, because as we've established, Dahlia doesn't actually copy the speed and toughness exactly. She copies it and then she applies her net positive +1 stat in speed and toughness, because the game originally had every rogue at 2 speed and 2 toughness. That was the equivalent. But now Dahlia is +5% speed and +3% toughness. So whenever she links with someone, she takes that +5% speed and +3% toughness and applies that to whatever speed and toughness she inherits, right? So the way I would make it work is to just make it a straight copy. Just make it so that whoever she links with, she also takes their speed and toughness. Because at this, like, with the way Dahlia works now, when she links with someone, she becomes a better version of them, which doesn't make sense. She's only supposed to be able to copy their passive. She shouldn't get better stats than them. That, to me, it just doesn't sit right. And that was kind of, like, my leading thing as to why I thought she should stay 3 speed, 3 toughness. Because... And my main argument for that was legendary bounce back, but I think in the case of linking with canon, you think about if let's say theoretically Dahlia, that's how Dahlia changes. She makes it so that she inherits exactly the speed and toughness of the character she links with. If she links with canon, who is a 2 speed 5 toughness, which is a very, very good speed and toughness stats, as well as his passive, potentially getting bullets back every bullet you hit, even though she doesn't really need it because she has replenish. But anyway, this is just a theoretical. If she's a 2 speed 5 toughness, she has epic tenacity and legendary bounce back, but Cannon, who is also 2 speed 5 toughness, has legendary tenacity, legendary life drain, epic tenacity. Like, you see what I mean? I've now seen the error of my ways and realized that, you know, if Dahlia links with a specific character who is an absolute tank, when she has epic tenacity and legendary bounce back as her only, like, bulk perks, then that's not too bad. My problem lies in, like, when she gets the extra stat when she links with Mac, because when she links with Mac, she becomes a 5 toughness with 25 repairable armor as well as tenacity and bounce back. But if she became a 2 speed 4 toughness when she links with Mac, because that's max speed and toughness, that seems a lot more reasonable. So that's now how I would change Dahlia. Not that she should stay 3 speed 3 toughness regardless of link, but that she should copy exactly the speed and toughness and not add a net positive +1 stat in each stat. Whew, okay, I felt like I was talking way too quickly there, but yeah, that's how I feel about Dahlia. Who else did I want to talk about? Kestrel. Right, Kestrel. Kestrel has been nerfed to the ground. Man, I still remember the good old days when Kestrel was like a top tier character, and now she's just bottom of the barrel. Like, she's still okay, I think it's inaccurate to say bottom of the barrel. When I say that, I mean, compared to other rogues, especially duelists, she just feels extremely underwhelming. And the comparison that I'm going to make won't be a duelist, but a character of similar stats, Runway. Now, Kestrel has 3 speed and 2 toughness. Now, when a character usually has a combined stat total of 5, and by that I mean, you know, 3 speed 2 toughness, 3 plus 2, 5. Usually when that's their stat total, that means, oh, okay, their perks are really good then. Their perks make up for their lack of speed and toughness. Now, if we look at Runway, that's the case, right? You've got Evade, okay, she can be a 4 speed when she gets shot at, that's helpful. Rare Blaster, okay, that's really helpful because she has 2 lethals that she can resupply with her briefcase. 25 armor, cool, she can bulk herself even more. Epic Stalker, very useful for when she's using a sniper rifle and guns in general. It's more speed while she's aiming. Quick Hands, great. The ultimate reload perk. Helping Hand, good. She's a support rogue. She should have a good revive perk. Legendary Gunsmith, very good, because she can have a high ammo capacity gun that she can also reload quickly, which is really, really good. And then Energize, so she gets her briefcase back really quickly. That's a really well-rounded character. Like, Runway is a very good character, regardless of, like disregarding what her ultimate actually does. If you look at her speed and toughness and then her perks, you'll agree that that is a well-balanced rogue. Now let's compare that to Kestrel. So Kestrel gets 1 more stat of speed in exchange for losing a level of toughness. So Kestrel is base toughness. She will take, like, whatever the damage numbers that show in the weapon screen for guns, that is the damage that Kestrel will take because she has 2 toughness. That's the base. And then, yeah, 3 speed. Now, she has Rare Evade, which means that when she gets shot at, she is faster than Runway. Rare Blaster, so, you know, the same Blaster perk. And the lethal that Kestrel has are bounce grenades. So Runway has stickies and trip mines, so both of her gadgets benefit from Blaster, whereas Kestrel, the only things that Kestrel benefits of for Blaster are her ultimate and bounce grenades. Now, that sounds like a good idea, right? But Kestrel used to have Epic Blaster. Epic Blaster made her bounce grenades do a maximum of 150 base damage, but with Rare Blast, it's now 138, and with her ultimate, it used to be that it started at 55 and got to 66 thanks to Epic Blaster, but now she has Rare Blaster, which means that her ultimate goes to, I think, 61? It's either 60 or 61. I don't know if they round up, because 10% of 55 is 5.5, so I don't know if they round that up to 61 or round it down to 50 or 60, sorry. So, both her gadgets and her ultimate were severely affected by Blaster being nerfed. And on top of that, her Energized got nerfed from Legendary to Epic, which means that her 75-second ultimate, which, I'm sorry, why does it take that long for her to get her drones back? 75 seconds? Guess who else gets his ability back in 75 seconds? Dima. And I would argue that Dima's ability as an explosive is much better than Kestrel. Anyway, that's just my little, I don't think, if you're going to make that her ability charge time, she needs to have Legendary Energized. That's ridiculous. But putting that aside, there is actually 2 changes I would make to this kit that, in my opinion, automatically make Kestrel a tremendously better character than she is at the moment. So first of all, I would rebuff Blaster, and the thing that I would nerf would be Stalker. Because I think... I used to think that Stalker was an amazing perk. I used to really value Stalker, and that's why I used to think that Epic Stalker should actually get a price increase. But I've since changed my mind. I now think Stalker is actually pretty underwhelming. So I would personally nerf Stalker on Kestrel and bring Blaster back to Epic. And then I would replace Gadgeteer with Restock. Now, Legendary Gadgeteer is a part of Restock now. That's how it works, because Resupply has been removed from the game because of the gadget cooldown system. And that's probably the thing that really makes Kestrel seem so bad in this update, because they removed Resupply, which was part of what made Kestrel good, and they gave her Legendary Gadgeteer, so okay, she has the best version of the new perk. But both Energize and Blaster got nerfed as a result, and so not only does it take her longer to get her gadgets back, they're now weaker. So, I don't know, it just feels really underwhelming. So if you give Kestrel Restock instead of Gadgeteer, not only does she get Replenish back through Restock, she retains Legendary Gadgeteer, and then you give her back Epic Blaster. I think that makes Kestrel a really great character again, because part of what made Kestrel bad already after Covert Ops was that they removed Replenish from her, which was what made Kestrel, I think, a really solid character. So I think if you replace Gadgeteer with Restock, you keep Legendary Gadgeteer, but you also give her back Replenish, you nerf Stalker and give her Epic Blaster, I think she's great. I would also maybe reduce the cooldown time on the Halo drones, because I think 75 seconds is a bit much. 75 seconds is the maximum ability cooldown. No ability exceeds 75 seconds. I think it's ridiculous that Kestrel... And here's the thing, right? Dima and Kestrel both have a 75-second ult, but Dima has Legendary Energized. So, in other words, Dima can get his ultimate back before Kestrel can, and I would argue that Dima's ult is better. So, that's a huge oversight in my opinion. So I would lower the cooldown time of Kestrel's Halo drones to maybe 65, 60 seconds. And then Epic Energized would reduce that to what? What's a fifth of 60? 11 point something. So yeah, she'd be able to get her ultimate back in 49 seconds, which I think is a bit more reasonable, considering what they do. So yeah, that's how I would buff Kestrel. I think it's a very simple way to buff her. I used to be of the opinion that her passive should be buffed, but I don't think her passive actually needs to be buffed, because, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be opposed to Kestrel getting a price buff, if her passive behaved like Umbra's, where like she gets a 500 extra cash for a down, but she also gets 500 extra cash for a finish, which would mean that she'd get 1,000 extra cash when she downs and finishes, and 500 extra cash if she gets an assist. That would be a really good change for Kestrel, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary, because at the end of the day, Kestrel has really cheap perks, so I don't think she actually needs the extra money from that would be given to her through those changes. Like, she would benefit greatly from it, any character would, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary as long as you buff Kestrel the way I suggested. Like, give her replenish back through restock, buff Blaster again, reduce the cooldown of the drones. I think she's a great character then. I think she'd be a solid character. She wouldn't be an S tier like she used to be, but she'd be up there. Alright, Lancer. Oh, Lancer. Okay, so, fun little fact. One of the things that I suggested when I came to nerfing Lancer was to give her Legendary Energize instead of Legendary Gunsmith, and to compensate for that, increase the cooldown time of her ability by 5 seconds from 55 to 60, so that it achieved the same energizing effect. Well, Lancer's ability now takes 60 seconds to cooldown, so she now has Epic Energized with a 60-second ability, so her ability time has actually been nerfed. So, I'm cool with Lancer having Epic Energized now. And the other thing that I want to bring up is that I'm now actually okay with Lancer keeping Gunsmith. And the reason I say that is because Lancer Arbitrator is now absolutely useless when you buy Gunsmith. And by that, okay, I should have worded that better. Lancer Arbitrator is still really, really annoying. There's no changing that. But the developers seem very, very gung-ho on Lancer being able to use Arbitrators. So I think we just have to kind of give up on that fantasy of giving Lancer Assault Rifles, as good as it would be. So, you know, we're assuming that she keeps shotguns. I'm okay with her keeping Gunsmith because they've now nerfed Gunsmith to the point where Legendary, like, no matter what version of Gunsmith you buy, it is absolutely useless on the Arbitrator. And there's like 2 reasons for that. 1, it doesn't give you an extra bullet anymore. And 2, and this reason was actually already in place for the Arbitrator. I'm not sure about the other shotguns, but I know for a fact that this is the case with the Arbitrator. You do not actually get a fall-off range increase on the Arbitrator with Gunsmith. And I know because I've tested it a lot in shooting range. I have tested to see, like, I was curious one day and I wanted to see just how far away the Arbitrator could do maximum damage from in the shooting range with Gunsmith, and I've came to the realization that it doesn't actually change. It's the same range. I did like a really granular test where like I pinged on the ground, shot it, made sure it was like the maximum range for 80 damage, and then I went and bought Gunsmith, went to that exact same spot and shot again, and it, well, I walked back a little bit, and then I saw that it did 45 damage, so that was the damage fall-off point, pinged it, went and bought Gunsmith, went to that exact same spot and shot, and it was still 45 damage. So Gunsmith doesn't actually increase the effective fall-off range of the Arbitrator. I'm not sure about the other shotguns, but the Arbitrator is not affected, which means Lancer Arbitrator base without Gunsmith is always how Lancer is going to be. Gunsmith does absolutely nothing for the Arbitrator on Lancer, and on any character for that matter. So I'm actually okay with Lancer retaining Gunsmith, because that means that if you want the effect of Gunsmith, it forces you to buy an SMG, because those are the only guns that Lancer benefits from, really, because assuming the other shotguns don't get fall-off range increases, now that the ammo counts round down, some shotguns have actually lost ammo. So the SKL-6, or as I call it, the Skill 6, actually lost a shotgun shell from Gunsmith because of the round down, and the Striker has lost a bullet because of the round down. So Gunsmith doesn't feel as good on shotguns as it used to. So that's actually really good. I'm a big fan of that change. I'm still of the opinion that Lancer should have Epic Helping Hand instead of Epic Bounce Back, because Lancer is meant to be the most fragile character in the game. Why does she have Epic Bounce Back? She already has Legendary Life Drain. She doesn't need anything else to bolster her health. You know what I mean? Like, Most people complain about legendary life drain on Lancer, but at the end of the day, Lancer needs life drain because and legendary life drain specifically because that makes Lancer balanced. She is extremely fragile. Like Seeker and Switchblade aren't as fragile as Lancer, but the difference is Lancer has life drain so that when she does get into a fight where she gets low on health and she does actually get the down, she gets rewarded for it. And that's an important thing for a fragile character. And you'll notice that every single one toughness character actually has a version of life drain. Lancer has legendary, Seeker has epic, and Switchblade has rare. So yeah, that's something really important to keep in mind. So yeah, obviously, I would prefer if Lancer was given assault rifles. That's always, that's always going to be my desired way of changing Lancer, but I think at this point, we know that Lancer is not going to be given assault rifles instead of shotguns, so I think we just need to tune her kit to make her a more balanced character, and I think giving her epic helping hand instead of epic bounce back, and yeah, I don't know. I think if they were to give Lancer assault rifles, get rid of Gunsmith, because the last thing we need is a silent... Well, I mean, we kind of already have one, Glimpse, but you would have a silent... You'd be able to... A character who can run silently, and then has legendary Gunsmith assault rifles, which means they have incredible range and maximum ammo. So, I don't know. Maybe not. But, I mean, it's already bad enough that Lancer has Shredder Round, Gunsmith, Arbitrator. So, I don't know. My point still stands about Lancer if she gets given assault rifles. Get rid of Gunsmith, buff Energize to Legendary. And then I would say buff Stalker to Epic. And give her Rare Evade. Otherwise... Actually, no. Screw it. Get rid of Gunsmith anyway, even if she keeps shotguns. I'm sick of it. Because, like... They got rid of Quick Hands off Lancer because it was useless. Because they gave her Quick Hands as a means of nerfing her by really only giving her 7 perks. But now that's what Gunsmith does with shotguns. Like, unless she's using an SMG, Gunsmith is absolutely useless, pretty much. So, get rid of Gunsmith, give her Legendary Energized, Epic Helping Hand instead of Epic Bounce Back, buff Stalker to Epic, and then give her Rare Evade. Boom. You fixed her. Because then, when she has Assault Rifles, she doesn't get extra range and ammo on them. She just has Shredder Rounds. Look, I think that's the best way to do it. That's what I suggested last time, but I mean, I was starting to have second thoughts because of some certain changes, but no, I'm still of the same opinion that Lancer should be changed that way. And you get given Assault Rifles, but... I mean, yeah, even if she doesn't get given Assault Rifles, those are the perk changes that should happen, in my opinion. Alright, Mac is fine. Phantom, I've already said this before, but replace Rare Helping Hand with Rare Energize. That would make Phantom a much better character. Her Nano Smoke takes 60 seconds. That's way too long of an ability that doesn't really do much. It's a very small area that the smoke covers. And yes, it reveals people as long as they're inside it, but it doesn't stay around for long. It stays around for like 7 seconds. So I think she should be able to use it more often. If you give her Rare Energized, then that's going to feel a lot more useful because she'll be able to use it more often. That's all they need to change about it. Otherwise, she's perfect. Ronin's fine. Runway's fine. Saint is fine. Scorch is fine. Seeker. Okay. I didn't mention Seeker in my original video. This is something new. Seeker actually needs a buff. Originally, I didn't talk about Seeker because at that time he was actually a meta character. And some people would argue that he still is. But just recently, it was confirmed that Talon is supposed to have Epic Life Drain and not Epic Lifeline. One of my changes from last update was that Talon should have Epic Stalker instead of Epic Lifeline because it didn't make sense for him to have Epic Lifeline. But then it changed to Life Drain, and I was like, oh wow, that makes Talon actually a cracked character. And then someone asked why Talon getting life drain wasn't in the patch notes, and Pretty Hair, one of the game designers, confirmed that Talon was supposed to have life drain the entire time. He wasn't supposed to have lifeline. So Talon, in terms of like competitive play, is just a better Seeker now. They both have epic nimble hands. They both have epic life drain. They both have epic rare armor. They both have legendary crack shot. Except Talon also has legendary tenacity and 1 extra level of toughness. So literally how people use Seeker in ranked or like, you know, competitive demo, Talon does better now. So like, because Talon has SMGs and DMRs, Seeker has assault rifles and DMRs, so they have a very similar playstyle. It's just that Seeker is, you know, so there's 2 areas that Seeker excels in, right, compared to Talon. Like, the 2 things Seeker does better than Talon are consistent reveals and higher explosive damage. Because Talon has C4, which can be upgraded to do 150 damage at max, and he does not get a version of Blaster. Seeker doesn't get a version of Blaster, but what he does get is his passive, which deals... Projectiles deal 2 times damage when bounced, and because you always bounce a bounce grenade, when he throws a bounce grenade, it's going to do base 200 damage, and if you upgrade it, it becomes base 250. So Seeker's grenades are incredibly deadly. So that's an advantage that he has over Talon. His other advantage is consistent reveals, and by that, I mean that while Talon has a radar dart and Hunter, which technically isn't reveals because it only is effective for Talon, Seeker gets a 30-second bow and legendary tracker rounds and sticky sensors. So Seeker is, like, one of the things that makes Seeker so insane, especially in Strikeout, is just how consistently he can reveal people. Because he has a gadget that reveals people, he has an ability that reveals people, and when bounced can actually down people in 1 shot. Otherwise it just does a shit ton of damage. And then with tracker rounds, when he shoots someone, they get revealed to the entire team for 5 seconds. So Seeker is an insanely good intel character. Like, I would argue he is the best intel character, because while Dallas is pretty good because he has Spotter and his reveal, Seeker also has sticky sensors, so I feel like he is getting reveals a lot more frequently than Dallas is, even though Dallas can recharge his ult by downing people. Okay, well, maybe Seeker and Dallas are competitors in terms of the best reveal characters, but you get what I'm trying to say, right? Seeker is an insanely good reveal character. In my opinion, to actually make Seeker a more viable pick over Talon, because I honestly don't think the consistent reveals and the higher damage bounce grenades is actually enough to convince people to play Seeker over Talon in competitive. I think the best way to buff Seeker, it's not that big of a buff, but it's a buff that I think would make people have a second thought, right? So Seeker has Rare Berserker and Epic Nimble Hands, which, as we've established, is essentially Quick Hands, but it's over 2 perks. And when they're set out like this, it actually costs 5,500 instead of 5,000, so it's actually a nerf for Seeker. What I would do is I would combine Berserker and Nimble Hands to give him Quick Hands, and the spot left behind by Berserker, I would replace with Rare Gadgeteer. And Rare Gadgeteer decreases gadget cooldown by 5%. Now, what that means for Seeker is that his sticky sensors, on the final upgrade, they get a decrease of cooldown of 10%. So when he buys Rare Gadgeteer, that would become a 15% cooldown total. Which means that a gadget that normally takes 40 seconds to recharge would come back every... Let me just get my calculator, actually. I want to know exactly what time it would recharge in. So 15% of 40 is 6 seconds. So he'd get sticky sensors every 34 seconds. That is pretty bloody good in my opinion. And then with bounce grenades, they take 75 seconds to cool down and they don't get a cooldown reduction. So if you give Seeker the 5% cooldown reduction from Gadgeteer, it actually affects his bounce grenades as well. And that's really important, because, you know, Seeker should get bounce grenades a little bit faster to make up for what he lacks against Talon. And the calculation is that when he has Rare Gadgeteer, it goes from 75 seconds to 71 seconds, which it's not very noticeable. It's a lot more noticeable in Sticky Senses. But the fact of the matter is, those extra 4 seconds might be the difference between a win and a loss. They're like, you know, the amount of time that it takes for your gadget to cool down, as long as it gets reduced, you're going to be happy about it. Especially when Rare Gadgeteer is only 5k. It's not a very expensive perk. So, I think for both his Sticky Senses and Bounce Grenades, that's very useful. And, you know, giving him Quick Hands consolidates his Berserker and Epic Nimble Hands into one perk, makes it $500 cheaper. And then, you know, he can reveal even more consistently because he has Sticky Senses that come back even quicker. And then a Bounce Grenade that comes back just a little bit faster. But that's enough, in my opinion. I don't think you should give him Epic Gadgeteer. That would make it a little too good. So, yeah, that's how I'd buff Seeker. Sigrid. Now, I've changed my mind about Sigrid a little bit. They've actually increased the cooldown time of her Ballistic Shield by 10 seconds. It used to be 35, now it's 45, which makes Epic Energized on her a lot more reasonable, in my opinion. So, I now only want 2 perk swaps for Sigrid, in terms of rarities. So, my original idea was that Energized and Nimble Hand swap, Shredder Rounds and Life Drain swap, and Lifeline and Tenacity swap. I have now changed my mind about Energized. Energized can stay. What I want to change is swap Lifeline with Tenacity and Shredder Rounds with Life Drain. I'm okay with her having Rare Nimble Hands, because I'll get into that in a second. But I mean, actually no, I just bring it up now. So Sigrid, she should have Epic Lifeline because she is meant to be a revive character. It literally says here that she used to be a first responder to terror attacks, and she hated the system because it accepted too many losses. She cares about people. She wants to revive them. I don't think it's fair that she only has Rare Lifeline. Why does she have the same revive perk as Anvil, for goodness sake? So, give her Epic Lifeline. That way she won't become a revive character, because, you know, people usually rush with the shield to fight. But at least you have a better option for reviving. It doesn't take 4 seconds, it takes 3 seconds. That will convince a lot more people to actually do a res with Sigrid. And now, I am going to explain, in comparison to a character, why Sigrid should get Life Drain nerfed. So, well, I mean, obviously nerf Tenacity as well. But here's how this is why I do it. So, Sigrid and Glitch are very similar characters. They both have 4 speed, 3 toughness. They both have Rare Nimble Hands. They both have a version of Energized. They both have Epic Tenacity. So, they're very similar characters. And they're both breaches. They both breach. Like, they're extremely similar characters. The difference is that Glitch is more of a defensive breacher, which I know sounds weird, but he kind of sits back a bit more, whereas Sigrid is extremely aggressive. But because of that, there is this undesired side effect that, in terms of bulk, but I don't know. I think what Sigrid has as a rushing breacher is a little too strong. Because, alright, let's compare the bulk perks of the characters, right? So Glitch has Epic Tenacity, 50 Armor, and Legendary Bounce Back. Those are 3 extremely good perks, right? Now let's compare that to Sigrid. So Sigrid gets Epic Tenacity, Legendary Bulletproof, and Legendary Life Drain. So they both have Epic Tenacity, and while Glitch has 50 armor, Sigrid gets 15% less damage on the body. So while Sigrid doesn't have an extra 50 armor that she can start off with, she inherently takes less damage from bullets. Which I would argue is actually better, because that's a universal thing, taking less damage from guns. Whereas once you lose your shield, it's gone until you respawn. And then Legendary Life Drain, while not as you have to down someone to get the 60 health from Life Drain, whereas with Bounce Back, you just have to not take damage for 2 seconds, or with Phantom 5 seconds. Whereas Sigrid has to get it down in order to get that 60 health. Now, that would be understandable if Sigrid didn't also have Adrenaline shots. Sigrid doesn't need Legendary Life Drain when she has Adrenaline shots. If she needs that little bit of extra health, she should just pop a Stim, you know? Like, Glitch doesn't have Stims. Sigrid does, so that's why I would say nerf Life Drain to Epic and make Shredder Rounds Legendary, so that Sigrid, by buffing Shredder Rounds, Sigrid becomes more effective against armored opponents. She can actually really give people like Anvil a hard time, because she has an SMG and Legendary Shredder Rounds that would annihilate armor. Like, Anvil would be very, very precautious around a Sigrid in that case. So, I think if you give her Legendary Shredder Rounds, that actually helps her ability to take down tougher opponents, which makes her breaching capabilities actually better. And in return, she loses 20 additional health from Life Drain, but she also has Stims. So again, she doesn't need like 60 health from Life Drain. And the other thing that I should bring up is that Glitch has 2 epic perks that bulk and a legendary perk that bulks, whereas Sigrid has 1 epic perk and 2 legendary perks. So I think that's also a quality of life change. So she can keep Tenacity, but it becomes rare. She has an epic bulk perk in Epic Life Drain, and then Legendary Bulletproof. So she has a rare, an epic, and a legendary, and then has Stims. I think that's a fair level with a character that doesn't have Stims, but has 2 epics and a legendary, right? I think that makes sense. And then, yeah, you got Epic Lifeline, so she becomes a better Rezzer. And then Shredder Rounds is better for shield. She can keep Epic Energize, that's good. And then, like, a 10% reduction in Tenacity, that's really not that noticeable. And honestly, it's actually a buff, because while you lose 10% of the melee and explosive damage reduction, it's also 4k cheaper. So that's actually more affordable for Sigrid, which means she can buy it earlier on, which means she can bulk earlier on. Like, that's actually a good change for Sigrid, in my opinion. So that's how I changed Sigrid. I still think she'd be an extremely good character with that perk set. It's just that they'd be, you know, tweaked in a certain way. So that's Sigrid. Switchblade, changing my mind about her. I think she's actually great the way she is. Now with Restock, oh, hang on, whoops, didn't mean to do that. With Restock, it now has the Legendary Gadgeteer effect, which, for her Bounce Grenade, I think it makes her Bounce Grenades recharge every 61 or 64 seconds, which is pretty good, especially considering she has Legendary Blaster as well. Those are deadly Bounce Grenades. And then her ultimate has both Volatile and Legendary Blaster, so her ultimate is amazing and takes 75 seconds, which makes sense. And then the gadget cooldown on Flashbangs makes it 45 seconds, I think. I could be wrong about that. Hold on, let me calculate that actually. Let's go to the calculator. 15% of 60 is 9, so 51 seconds actually. Oh wait, doesn't Flashbang have... No, yeah, never mind. Flashbangs have a cooldown reduction of 10% on the final upgrade, so it actually goes from 60 to 45, right. So, Switchblade in comparison to other characters as a breacher and using gadgets and her ability is actually really good. Like, you look at Switchblade's stat total of 4 speed and 1 toughness and you think, oh, that's bad. But then you think she has rare life drain, epic bulletproof, and restock and blaster. She's actually a really solid character. Being able to take less damage from bullets is extremely useful, considering her toughness. And then having a version of life drain is good. It would have been really bad if she didn't have life drain. But then she also has restock. So when she downs someone, she gets 20 health and then resupply activating. So that's... Well, sorry, not resupply, replenish. That's really, really useful. I think Switchblade's actually fine the way she is. Switchblade's a really, really good character. Talon is absolutely cracked now that he has Life Drain. Now that Talon has Life Drain, you can rush. You can be like a one-man army with Talon, which is actually one of his lines. When I was playing Talon a bunch because of Life Drain, I was like, oh my god, I'm annihilating people. And then at the end of the game, he said, I'm a one-man army. I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. You're pretty fucking powerful. Considering this is what Talon's perks are supposed to be, I don't know, maybe nerf his speed by 1? Because in my original video, I said, make him a 4 speed, 3 toughness. But someone pointed out to me that Talon is meant to be a rat character, and rat characters need to be somewhat fragile. And I would argue that Talon is somewhat fragile, because he does have 25 armor, but at the end of the day, he takes base damage from bullets. So you can gun him down fairly easily, even though he has a legendary tenacity. Like, you need to shoot Talon, right? I know that sounds dumb in a shooter game, but yes, you do need to shoot Talon in order to effectively kill him. So keep him at 2 toughness, but maybe lower his speed by 1, because my god, like, I don't know. They might want to keep him at 5. They probably want to keep him at 5 speed, but I just think that's a little ridiculous considering what he gets. Because he also has padded steps. He's a 5 speed with padded steps. The only other 5 speed with padded steps is fucking Lancer. So that's nuts. Like, he is insane. But if the devs don't want to change him, they don't want to change him. They gotta respect that. But yeah, he's pretty crazy. Fixer. Now, Fixer actually got a really good balance change this update. Because Gunsmith was nerfed, he can no longer have a 3-shot tier. They nerfed his Gunsmith and buffed his Energized. So instead of having Legendary Gunsmith and Epic Energized, he now has Epic Gunsmith and Legendary Energized, which is actually really, really good. Because if we look at his ability, it takes 60 seconds to cool down. And then we look at his Cluster Smokes, they take 60 seconds to cool down. So, without him having even bought Energized and Gadgeteer, Fixer's ultimate and his smokes, which are supposed to be used at the same time, because that's how they work best. They will recharge at the same time. Now, they won't recharge at exactly the same time, because you have to wait until the ability's 10-second time is up before it starts recharging. But the point is, they both have a 60-second cooldown. You'll use them at roughly the same time. So by the time your ability comes back, you'll have your smoke back, and you can use it again. It's very, very good for Fixer, because that is a huge part of his playstyle. Set up a smoke screen, look through it, and shoot people down. That is a huge strength of Fixer's. So I'm really glad that they made that change. Now, if we look at Epic Gadgeteer and Legendary Energized, there's a bit of a difference there. So, Legendary Energized makes it so that he recharges his ability every 45 seconds, and Gadgeteer gives a 10% reduction cooldown for the smokes. And that comes out to be a 54-second cooldown for the smokes, because the smokes do not get a gadget cooldown from an upgrade. It's literally just Gadgeteer that influences the cooldown time. Now, that might sound weird that the ability would have a 9-second increase or decrease in time over the smokes, but remember that the ability takes 10 seconds before it starts recharging. So when you have both Gadgeteer and Energized purchased, depending on how you throw them, you'll actually get your smoke and your ability back at exactly the same time, which is, like, that is really smart. That is an incredibly smart way of distributing Fixer's perks. Like, that is perfect for Fixer. That's absolutely brilliant. Like, kudos to the devs for that one, because that's insanely well thought out. Fixer is actually a really, really good character. The only thing I would change is replace Padded Steps with Replenish, because I don't think Padded Steps fits Fixer's personality. I know he's meant to be a guy who, like, gets the job done, and he gets it done right, so in other words, he is silent, but I don't know, man. Snipers aren't silent. Unless the tier was a silent gun, I don't know if Padded Steps would be all that useful, because yes, he can sneak around you, but the moment he starts shooting, you know where he is. I know, obviously in an ideal scenario, a Fixer will one-shot you by shooting you in the head because he used Padded Steps, but because the tier has such good range, you don't really need to use padded steps half the time because you're far enough away from your target that they won't hear your footsteps anyway. So I don't think it's really necessary for Fix to have padded steps. If you give him Replenish, that actually makes up for the fact that he's lost his 3-shot tier, because I think the reason they took Replenish off him to begin with was because he now had a 3-shot tier, but now he doesn't have a 3-shot tier anymore. So I think if you want Fixer to feel really satisfying again, like, if you want Fixer, in my opinion, to be a perfect character, but not broken, you give him Replenish instead of padded steps, because then he has theoretically infinite ammo for both his DMRs and his snipers, and then he has everything else in his kit is perfectly geared for him. Armor gives him a little bit of bulk. Berserker, in the rare scenario that he can't get the shot down, he can reload while he's running away. Stalker helps to increase his movement speed while he's aiming down sights. Gadgeteer and Energize synergize perfectly. Gunsmith is really good for DMRs because it still increases the fall-off range and magazine size for DMRs. And then, yeah, Crackshot is a no-brainer. He's a sniper. Of course he has legendary Crackshot. So if you give him Replenish instead of padded steps, Fixer is probably the most well-made rogue in the game. Like, he is perfect the way he would be there. He's already really good, but that's the one thing I'd change about him to make him the perfect character that he can be. Trench is good the way he is. I like Trench. The interesting thing about Trench now is that, first of all, since the last video, he's got a very big visual overhaul because of story reasons. But also, Trench is now the only character in the game, except for when Dahlia links with him, that can have 2 of each gadget at once. Because the gadget cooldown system has made it so that you can only hold 1 of each gadget. So the gadgets that used to give you 2 now just decrease the cooldown. But Trench's passive is that he can carry an additional gadget, which means that Trench and Dahlia linked with Trench are the only ways to get 2 of 1 gadget at once. And that is really, really good, because they've also reworked Runway's ability. Runway's ability now just recharges your gadget's cooldown times, which means you have to actually use the gadgets before you pick up Runway's briefcase. So they've really, really geared Trench to be the utility character. Like, he is amazing as a utility character now, because he has trip mines and trophies. Trip mines and trophies are pretty good, pretty well priced. And then he has, Gadgeteer, but not too high of a Gadgeteer, because he already has 2 of each gadget. It would be ridiculous if he had legendary Gadgeteer. Volatile and Energize make his barbed wire really, really good. Quick Hands is a really nice quality of life perk for him. 75 armor is a really good way to bulk him, but he's only a 4 toughness and doesn't have any other kind of bulk, so that's actually a really good way of making him feel like a defender. And then the other perks just really help to round him out. He's a really well-made character. I wouldn't change anything about him. He's actually great. Umbra. Now, I don't know. I'm a bit weird on Umbra, because I think Umbra's passive doesn't feel great, in my opinion. I don't think, because Umbra's passive is basically just a down and assist based version of Vi's passive. Because if we look at Vi, she gets damage back for every bit of damage she deals. So for every 10 damage that Vi deals, unless it's poison, she will get health. So with her poison, whatever damage is dealt through the poison, she will get back as health. So if someone takes 3 or 4 damage from poison, Vi will get 4 health added to her maximum health. But with the guns, the portion of the damage you deal with firearms returning to you as maximum health, every 10 damage you deal gives you 1 health. So if you use a Hydra, for example, and you deal 30 damage on 1 bullet, you will get 3 health on Vi. So with high damage guns like the Hydra and the Sahara, Vi can get health back really quickly. She can get maximum health really quickly. So in my opinion, Umbra's passive is just a worse version of Vi's passive. So yeah, that's I would want to change Umbra's passive in a way, but I don't really know how to. one way that you could change his passive is to like just ditch the whole like health based thing. I would make it so that when Umbra gets downed, he can use his pistol while he's downed. So it's kind of like a Chaac situation, but instead of being able to roll and self-res, he can shoot still. Now, obviously, there are a number of ways that they can make that balanced and not make it broken. For example, they can make his aiming accuracy while downed really bad, so that while he can defend himself with a pistol, he won't be as accurate as when he's not using his pistol normally. And that would also actually incentivize people to upgrade their Executioner, because the Executioner gets a hipfire accuracy increase on the final upgrade. So when you increase the hipfire accuracy, you would also theoretically increase his accuracy while he's shooting on the ground, right? So I don't know, that I think that fits Umbra as a character. He's been through a lot, and he's still fighting, so I think it would make sense for him to be able to use his pistol while downed. And then his perks are really good. Maybe reshape his speed and toughness. Maybe make him a 3 speed, 3 toughness. Because part of the reason he's only a 2 toughness is because of the extra health he gets from his passive as well as life drain. So, I don't know, maybe make him a 3 speed, 3 toughness. Or just keep him 4 speed, 2 toughness and give him a bulk nerf. I don't know. But yeah, I would like to see a different passive on Umbra, because I feel like his passive just feels too similar to Vi's, and in a bad way. It just doesn't feel good, you know. And then Vi, I said back in the day that I wanted Vi to get Helping Hand instead of Resupply, but they then replaced Resupply with Epic Gadgeteer. And I think that's fair enough. I don't think Vi feels too broken now. I think Vi's actually in a pretty good spot. So, yeah. Oh, actually, one more thing. Juke. I actually want to talk about Juke. I think her ability should still be nerfed. They've made it so that instead of taking 30 seconds to cooldown, they take 45 seconds to cooldown. Which, yeah, okay. That's a good nerf. But, I don't know. Personally, for me, Juke's drones, like, I'm okay with her having 2, but I think, considering the fact that she gets 2, the damage that they deal is unjustified. They deal way too much damage when 2 are shooting at one person. I think instead of doing, like, 2... I think they do 4 damage a second, because I think it's 2 damage ticks at 2 ticks a second. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it works. So it's 4 damage a second, with Juke drones. And then when you have 2, it becomes 8 damage a second. I would make it so that it is a 1 damage tick at 2 ticks a second. So it's 2 damage a second. That way, when you've got 2 drones shooting at one person, it's only doing 4 damage a second instead of 8. They still feel oppressive, but not so oppressive that, like, you're being... like, when you're getting rushed by the Juke at the same time, you feel like you have absolutely no chance. And the other thing, I think that they should reduce the amount of visual feedback that the drones show, because your screen goes really red when you're being hit by Juke's drones, and because they're consistently hitting you, your screen is constantly red, and that's actually really distracting. In my opinion, the amount of stuff, the red stuff that comes up on screen when you're being hit by them is too much. It distracts you too much. So I would personally make it so that, you know, there's a little bit less red feedback, damage feedback from the drones, and that they get a slight damage nerf. Then I think Juke is in a balanced spot, because as Juke currently is now, I still think she's a bit too powerful. But I think if you nerf her that way, she's a much more balanced character. Alright, that's it. Now I'm actually done with all the characters. So yeah, as you can see, I do think that making this video is necessary, because quite a lot of things have changed since the last video. I've talked about, you know, removing some nerfs from characters, adding some buffs to some new characters, and then for some characters, still the same changes. But yeah, that concludes my new updated rogue balancing video based on rogues that I would personally do. But yeah, I have actually been talking for a whole hour. That's nuts. But yeah, anyway, as I was saying, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I'm sure you can tell that I'm very passionate about this kind of stuff based on, the fact that I talked about this for a whole hour. And yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.